South Korea's Finance Minister Choi Sang-mok is off to the U.S. today to attend this first round of high-level trade negotiations with the Trump administration, with a lot on his shoulders to draw out a breakthrough for his country. We turn to Professor Shin Se-don for more. Good morning.
Good morning.
Professor Shin, should we not be surprised to see Trump attend the discussions? I mean, how likely Trump will show up at the meeting this week?
Well, looking at China's kind of callous reaction to U.S. Tariff policy, I think for the Trump administration, Japan and Korea should be the two most favorable kind of and cooperative, country towards the United States. So I think President Trump is expecting a great deal of interest in the cooperation from Japan as well as Korea. So I think he would probably show up at the meeting, but even if he does not show up, I think Korea is going to be the most friendly and cooperative countries towards the United States. That I think is pretty sure.
It's also good to hear that the U.S. is favoring countries like South Korea and Japan for now. But what do you think the U.S. side will seek to get out of the meeting this time? I mean, what will be they asking for or even demanding?
Yeah, I mean, prime goal of tariff policy of the Trump administration is trying to reduce trade deficit. Mm-hmm. And Japan and Korea has been number 5, number 6 trade surplus country against the United States. So a prime goal of everything, reciprocal tariff and those kind of tariff policies is against trade deficit. So I think if Korean government suggests a certain kind of procedures to reduce the trade deficits against the United States, I think there's a pretty good probability that two governments come up with the kind of a positive negotiations.
Well, one thing is dealing with a trade deficit, but another thing is Trump's attempt to deal with trade and defense in a one-shot, package, one-shot deal. How should South Korea respond to Trump's such attempt?
Well, we've been paying about, $100 million annual defense expenditure, and there has been rumor that President Trump is asking $1 billion. But several $100 million is not a big deal considering the size of bilateral trade between United States and Korea, which is about $200 billion. So I think few $100 million negotiation is not a big deal. I mean, United States is not kind of concerned about defense expenditure. Rather, they wanted to reduce the trade deficits of Korea against the United States, which is about which is about $60 billion. So I think Korea has to come up with kind of measures to gradually reduce 70 billion trade surplus against the United States. I think that is possible.
Well, South Korea is trying to separate the two matters, trade and defense. But what will be the best outcome for the South Korean side this time to bring home from this risk meeting in Washington, D.C.?
Well, regarding, about the defense expenditures, I think two government has to wait until Korean new administration after June. So deferring that kind of a defense negotiations to the next administration, and the first and the foremost, kind of a topic is to reduce U.S. trade deficit against Korea, which is about $70 billion, and the Korean government could promise reducing that trade surplus at least $5 billion a year for next 5 years. Then I think that we could reduce the $70 billion trade surplus towards the United States to probably 30 billion or 20 billion, down the road to 5 years from now.
Or maybe it should be a rather, warm-up period until we do welcome a new administration. Now, the meeting this week will mark a first such round of tough talks between South Korea and the U.S., and it could take multiple rounds of talks over the course of next weeks or even months. Professor Shin, what kind of strategy should the South Korean team have in mind during this, battle?
Well, we have plenty of, Korean government has plenty of leverage. First, we could reduce, our trade surplus against the United States by importing more goods from the United States. And another kind of leverage is Korean public funds like Korean investment funds and national pension funds have a huge kind of resources to invest in a foreign country. And we could reduce, we could kind of move a certain portion of our national resources to invest in a U.S. Treasury bills. That is a second leverage. And also we have, we have a new administration coming after June. So we could have certain kind of time dealing until new governments, established after June. So Korean government now has plenty of, leverages to make a deal with the United States.
Maybe that's why the Finance Minister, Choi Sang-mok, who left early this morning, said that he is not going to rush through the negotiations. Professor Shin, thank you so much for joining us this morning. As always, we appreciate it.
My pleasure.